y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a book review, which I haven't done in literally so long, so I'm so excited. Today I'll be book reviewing the book called Treasure Island. So if you're unfamiliar with how my book reviews are set up, basically I wrote it all down on my iPad so I can, relay the information without coming up with it on the spot. I wrote down everything I want to say, but I talk about it in sections, basically. These are the notes I wrote on Treasure Island. I don't think y'all can see, but those are the notes I wrote on Treasure Island, and we're going to debrief them today. So in my book reviews, the structure I kind of do is obviously the title and the author, and then when I started reading it, when I finish reading it, then I'll tell you exactly how many days that is, so you don't have to do the math. Then I give you a summary of the book. Just letting you know right now, there will be spoilers. Like, there will be. Like, if you don't want to know what happens in Treasure Island, oh, I'm sorry, click off, please, because I can't be like, if this happens, then no. Like, I'm spoiling, so just here's your warning, spoilers. So yeah, I give a summary of the novel, and then I talk about reoccurring themes and metaphors that I kind of caught throughout the story while I was reading, and then I talk about relationships and character development that I've noticed as well throughout the story. So character growth and just relationships between characters and what originated and what changed and what was cool and all that jazz. And then lastly, I tell you like my overall thoughts, and then if I recommend it and if I would read it again. So yeah, let's get right into it. Treasure Island was written by Robert Louis Stevenson. This is what I wrote for the summary. The story is written from the perspective of young Jim Hawkins. Through a life of piracy, we see him grow from a young boy into a young man fairly quickly. In the beginning, we are introduced to Jim helping his parents run the Admiral Benbow, an inn. After encountering an unpleasant old seaman and sheltering him until his passing, Jim discovered the value of some of his hidden possessions, the seamen. One of which was a map he had reason to believe would lead him to great fortune. With the help of the town doctor, whom he trusted, they assembled a crew, including a one-legged charismatic cook by the name of Long John Silver. Long John Silver had a mysterious seafaring background. They set sail, and upon arrival to the island, Jim discovered the cook was much more than he had led on to be. He turned half or more of the crew against their original captain and set out to secrecy to discover the treasure by their own ways. Jim relays all of this information to the captain and team, and the ship is officially split under two captains now. Each side now has to survive their old crewmates as well as the dangers of the island. Jim meets a maroon. Look it up. It means okay, I'll tell you. It's like someone who is abandoned by ship on an island, stranded, literally. That's exactly what it means. Not the color. Jim meets a maroon by the hands of the same pirate that buried the treasure. This maroon, Ben Gunn, has been stranded for 3 years and has gone somewhat mad, yet befriending him might have turned out to leave him the greatest fortune of all. Throughout all of this, we watch Jim Hawkins transition into a young adult, developing a balanced sense of intelligence and caution, blended with chivalry and charisma. That was my summary of Treasure Island. On a whim, no biggie. Let's talk about that. Basically, this boy we're introduced to in the beginning, he's like, I'm telling the story. We're like, cool, okay, first person. This boy tells us about how he helped his father and his mother too, but his father run this inn called the Admiral Benbow. One day, this big scary man with he was so clearly pirate, okay? This big scary pirate man, he sits down and orders rum and demands a place to stay and gives him a few coins. Like, he's only paid a certain amount of days worth of stay, but he keeps staying. Jim and the family, they're like, you can't keep staying here, like, you owe us more money. And he's like, ah. So this pirate that's staying with Jim's family passes away because he had a bad heart, because he was always drinking and because he was stressed. He passes away, and Jim and his mom, because his dad's passed away now, which is low-key overlooked and also sad, but yeah. Jim and his mom find, in the old pirate's trunk, some of his possessions, including a sack of coins, and so his mom takes only what is due to her for his stay at the end. She's like, I can't take any more, so she takes only what's due. But Jim was like, but this map looks a little interesting, I'm gonna take this. We took it and they ran, and later the inn was invaded by other pirates, and Jim overheard them being upset that what they wanted was gone. So Jim knew it was the map and it was important, and he only trusted to take it to the doctor. He's just a town doctor, and he trusted this doctor, so he was like, I need to go visit him. The doctor was at the squire's house at the time, the local squire, so he takes it there, and they all sit down together and realize that it's literally a map to a whole lot of treasure, and they're like, we can find this. We're the only ones who know about it. So they swear each other to secrecy, and they build a crew to go like hunt the treasure, like to literally sail across the 7 seas and be pirates and get the treasure. And Jim is gonna go along as the cabin boy, like a cute little cabin boy, because he's still little, he's like 12. And then, long story short, while they're getting the crew together, I think it was maybe the Squire Trelawney, or maybe it was the doctor, but someone met Long John Silver, and they're like, oh, this guy, he's such a good guy. You know those kind of guys that they're like too good to be true, right? I knew right away. Also, I kind of knew the story already, so that's probably why I knew right away, but I was like, this guy's fishy. And of course he is, but he wanted to go along on the voyage as the sea's cook, because he just missed the sea so bad. So he goes along with them, and then one day Jim's in an apple barrel, and he hears Long John Silver talking to the rest of the crewmates that they gathered, and he's like, okay y'all know the plan, we're gonna take the treasure, and this was all a lie to the other pirates. And Jim's like, I gotta tell everyone. Basically, I'm giving it like really like rundown. Jim's like, we gotta tell everyone. So they get to the island, and the captain's like, okay, y'all go explore to distract the mutineers, which is like Long John Silver's group of pirates name. So distract the mutineers. She's like, y'all go explore, and then the rest of them stay and have a little meeting, a little boat meeting, and they're like, what are we gonna do? And basically Jim runs into this little maroon Ben Gunn, who's literally got my heart. He's just the sweetest little guy, but he was abandoned on the island by the same Captain Flint and crew 3 years ago. He's gone a little like cuckoo, low-key, but he's just got such a good heart, and he's kind of genius. Like, he literally kept himself alive for that long, and he built a little boat and all those things. You'll see what else he does. War kind of breaks out between the mutineers and the other pirates. I don't know what to call them, the doctor and the captain and Jim and that group, the good versus evil, really. They just get into little huffs and puffs. They find out that they're against each other. Well, you know, it all just comes out in the air. And Jim one day, like after a really big fight one night, Jim was like, I can't do this anymore, like I don't want to spend my morning doing this. When the doctor was going out to look for Ben Gunn to get more like information, Jim was like, I want to go out and explore. So Jim went into Ben Gunn's hidden little boat that he knew about, and he sailed all the way to the Hispaniola, which was the ship that they had gone together and was now invaded by just the mutineers. He sailed to that ship and wanted to cut it from its anchor so it would just drift away, and that was like a big journey of his and like a big deal, and it was super dangerous, and he literally almost died like a few times because he's just a boy, and it was obviously dangerous. So he did that. The next morning he expected to die, and so he was like praying. He was like, please, like, just don't let me suffer, is what he was praying, like, which is the first time we see him have any kind of spiritual connection, so it's kind of cool. And then he wakes up the next morning, he's like, I'm still here. And then he looks up and he sees the Hispaniola. Well, he sees the island, and he's like, I could paddle to safety, but I'd hit all these dangerous rocks, so I'm gonna go around to the safe spot. And he gets around somehow, and then he sees the Hispaniola, and he's like, why is it floating around in circles? Like, either someone's like taken over and my plan backfired and it didn't even matter that I cut them loose, or it's abandoned, right? So he goes all the way to the Hispaniola, and he climbs on, and there's 2 pirates on there, both drunk and like passed out or dead. Jim doesn't know. And one of them's like, he's dead. I don't remember how it went down, but basically one of them was dead and one of them was really injured. And Jim was like, it's Captain Hawkins to you now. Yeah, period. That's basically what he said. He was like, I'll take care of you, but you best call me Captain Hawkins, basically. And so he got him some rum, because that's what he wanted, and he got him a scarf for his like wound. And yeah, he said, you're gonna tell me how to sail this way back to the island, because Jim didn't know how. And so he was telling him how, and then he was like, hey, like the rum's upsetting my stomach, give me some whiskey instead. be for real. Jim didn't believe him. Neither did I. I was like, the rum's upsetting your stomach. You're okay. So he was like, can I get some whiskey instead? And Jim was like, oh, sure. So he went in the back and like watched out of the window while he was getting whiskey, and this pirate got a knife and like put it in his coat pocket so he could basically sabotage Jim, right? Jim knew though, so he was like, aha, now I know. So he went back to sail. He was like, here's your whiskey. Sorry I took so long. Couldn't find it. Like something like that. And then they land, and just as he was landing, he was like, oh, I'm so proud of myself for sailing. Like, I really did this. And then he let his guard down for a second, and then he was like, hang on. I haven't thought about the fact that he's trying to kill me for a while now. And he turned around and he was literally about to stab him, and Jim was like, whoa. And so Jim dodges him around and basically like knocks him out with like the boat, like a part of the boat. And this is the longest summary ever. So basically Jim ends up killing this pirate. His name is Israel Hands. He ends up killing him, and I think it was important to the story that Jim killed him but not intentionally like shot him, because he had his gun loaded, but his gun's fired on accident and it knocked something to kill this man. So Jim didn't intentionally like kill him. Like, it wasn't intentional. Well, he was just defending himself, but he wasn't like, I'm going to kill him, and then he did. He literally just was defending himself and it happened. So I think that's important to the innocence of his character. Anywho, he gets back on the island. He's like, I gotta go tell my crew that I got the ship back. And he goes into where they're all sleeping and he hears them snoring. He's like, classic. They're all snorers. I'm so happy that they're all safe and sound. And then the bird, Long John Silver has a parrot named Captain Flint. And Captain Flint was like, pieces of eight, which I was like, what in the code names? But it's a type of money. So it woke up the rest of the crew, and the mutineers had taken over. Then Jim was like, dang, what happened? And Long John Silver was like, oh, we made a little deal. The doctor let us have all the food and all the water and the map and this location if we didn't hurt them. And Jim was like, are you kidding me? And he was like, yep. So this is our spot now. And Jim was like, okay. And Long John Silver was like, you better join us. Like, I like this boy, so you better join us if you want to be safe, because the mutineers were turning on Long John Silver. Jim was like, okay, I guess I'll side with you guys, but he was still like a little wary. And the next morning the doctor came to visit and like tend to all of their wounds, and he was like, Jim, what are you doing here? And Jim was like, well, I made a deal to stay here. And he was like, let me speak to you outside. And Long John Silver was like, okay, but remember, Jim, we're like this, like, I trust you. And Jim was like, But then he goes to talk with the doctor outside, and Long John Silver's just like watching, and the doctor's like, come run with me, like, let's get you out of here. And Jim's like, no, I gave him my word, that would be wrong. And it's like such a big point like for his character, because you're like, dang, he's just a boy, yet he's like, he's keeping his word at such a young age. Like, he cares about that kind of stuff. Like, dang. So that was cool. And then he stays with the pirates, and they got the map, and it was treasure hunting day the next day. So they go put on their hiking shoes and go hike around to find the treasure, because the instructions were so weird. Eventually they hike to this mountain and they see the skeleton, and they're like, ugh, we know that guy. It was literally a pirate that they knew, and it was his skeleton, and he was like pointing a certain way, and they're like, that's literally so-and-so. I don't remember his name, but they're like, that's terrifying. Captain Flint must have killed him a long time ago, or whenever he buried this, after they all held Barry and used him as like a prop for the directions. So they had to like go off of where his finger was pointing and keep going to find the treasure. How far will one go for wealth? For real. Like, that's perspective right there. And I was like, dang, that's kind of good. So they pass up that skeleton, and all of a sudden you hear the 15 sailor treasuremen's trust da 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 rum, which is like the sea shanty that even the old seaman Billy and the Admiral Benbow in the beginning, even he was singing that song, and they just kept re-singing it throughout the book, like nonchalantly, like randomly. And sometimes I pick it up and be like, that's the same one. And they all learned it from Captain Flint. Would not stop singing that song apparently. Like, he always sang that song, and so it got kind of in everyone's heads. Yeah, so that's kind of crazy. And then they hear that song and they're like, he's haunting us. It's because the thing with the Bible, because yeah, one guy, he had given I forgot about this part. He'd given Long John Silver like the black dot, which is like, you're next, watch your back kind of thing, like you're dead basically. And he'd given that on a page of a Bible, and all the other pirates was like, why on earth would you go and rip the Bible up like that? Like, now it's not even gonna work, right? That was their mindset. So they heard like the singing, and they're like, he's haunting us, oh my gosh. And the pirates were like, it's literally because you ripped up the Bible, like why would you do that, you dummy? And then Long John Silver was like, no, spirits don't have echoes, because the voice was echoing. And they're like, dang, you're right, John, like you're so smart, like what would we do without you? So they kept going, and that distracted them for a while though. They kept going, and then they find X marks the spot, the treasure. They dig it up, they dig it up, they dig it up, and nothing's there, of course. And all of a sudden they're all like, you knew all along, didn't you, Long John Silver, that nothing was there? We're gonna beat you up and knock you out in your life, basically. And Long John was like, whoa, and he threw like a gun to Jim. He was like, take this, and they were gonna like fight 2 against 3 or 6, 2 against 6, I think, 2 against 5, I don't know, however many pirates were right there. And then you hear pew pew pew, and you hear pew pew pew, that's all I'm gonna say. Those pirates are dropped, and you see Ben Gunn and the doctor and the captain. I think it's those 3. If not, it's definitely Ben Gunn and the doctor, and then someone else, the squire, I don't know, one of the other good guys, rise up from the shadows, and they're like, we're saving you. And they save Long John Silver and Jim. And they're like, by the way, the treasure's this way. Ben Gunn, our buddy Ben Gunn over here, found it so long ago, and he heaved it on his back into this old cave. Tell me Ben Gunn doesn't deserve all this treasure, first of all. That's just my humble opinion. But then the next day, all the good guys heave it onto the boat, and which also literally is a symbolism of like, it was literally a burden on them, because they spent all day carrying it on their backs from this spot to the boat, and it was heavy and it was hot, and it literally took all day, and it was labor. Carried it on their backs like a burden. Also, Jim was like very fascinated by how the money came from all kinds of different cultures. He never mentioned like the worth of it. Maybe it represents his innocence, and how he only knows money to bring harm and to bring misfortune. Anywho, then they finally sail home, and we hear about how Ben Gunn spends his share, which should have been all of it, but he spends his share like within 2 or 3 weeks, and then he has like a little place to live, and he goes to church and sings loud and goes to parties and parties it up. Like, that was how he lived his life. So he lived happily ever after. Long John Silver took a few sacks of the money and went off into the night, and he was never to be heard of again. And Jim wishes him well. He's like, I just hope that he's living like the most comfortable life he can right now, because in the afterlife he's gonna get it. Because he knew he's such a bad guy and a traitor, and he's still like, I wish him the best, because later on he wasn't the best. That's his mindset, which is like very interesting. Like, he doesn't mention the captain in the last paragraph, or he doesn't mention the doctor who he trusted from the beginning. He mentions Long John Silver, because that guy really left an impact on him. So yeah, and that's that. That's the summary. 100 minutes later. Anyways, let's talk about recurring themes and metaphors. I couldn't help but notice everyone's yearned for wealth and treasure and fortune except Jim, who truly never showed interest for the reward. At the beginning of the novel, he wants only from the old seaman what is owed to his father for hospitality they have offered. When the treasure was found, he spoke only of how fascinating he found the coins from all sorts of different cultures, and never mentioned their individual worth. Not to mention the hindrance of physically moving the money to the ship all day as literal weight on their shoulders. It shows that Jim may view the money as something that causes trauma and loss, stating the remaining money still lies beneath Treasure Island. Oh, and he has no intentions of ever going back to retrieve it. I forgot to mention that part. He did say that. He was like, yeah, the rest of the money's still there. I'm not going back there. That's literally what he says. So, like, it wasn't worth it for him. We also see Jim form morals for himself as he matures, such as developing a sense of spirituality and loyalty. He begins to prey in the face of death or restless night, and for those whose souls he felt were lost cause. He kept his word to Silver by staying with the mutineers even when Doc offered him an estate because he said that would be wrong. He also developed a charismatic sense of pride that suited him well and even mirrored what Long John Silver might have looked like if he went down a different path, demonstrating a prevalent theme of good versus evil. There was also some sense of status throughout the novel, which altered quite frequently. Originally, it went by rank and status, but surely evolved into those who were vocal about their morals, who were brave and took charge, and also, depending on the location and point of plot, alliances shifted. This observation reminds us that, at the end of the day, it is who we are that matters over the money that we make. Finally, there is a theme of rum and drunkenness representing loss of control. This is recognized by Jim, and though he is offered several times throughout the story alcohol, he always turns it down. Yeah, so I already kind of touched on some of that. Basically, the money thing, not worth it to Jim. Like, he understands his worth. Also, the sense of spirituality he like forms for himself as he's out on this voyage alone. Like, he didn't have that to begin with, and throughout the novel he gets more and more spiritual, and it's kind of cool. Kind of just happens. And yeah, it's like very what's the word I'm looking for? Very coming of age. Yeah, he kind of got a little prideful, a little confident, a little charismatic, and I think that side of him is from like being around pirates for so long. Like, he has the boyishness and the fun confidence of being around pirates, but the seriousness and the intelligence and the loyalty of being around like the aristocratic men. And like, what a combination. Like, it just shows like what those two worlds shaped, and that there is a mutual, and it's not just black and white. Like, Jim is the gray, and like, it's the best. Like, he's the best of both worlds, which is like so cool. Also about status, again, like, there was this one aristocrat who was like a fine man who went on the ship and literally just drunk his life away, and then fell off the ship and kind of drowned like early into the story. And yet Jim, the captain boy, literally was like, "You're gonna call me Captain Hawkins" at one point. Like, it doesn't. And they all worshipped Long John Silver when they were singing about the treasure they'd find and drinking rum while Jim was in the apple barrel. But when they dug it up and saw that it wasn't there, they were just about ready to end him. So like, alliances shifted and status shifted, but at the end of the day, they all followed who used their voice, you know, and they followed who put themselves out there. Ben Gunn, Ben Gunn, who was literally the hero, had no money. Well, he had money actually. It was hidden, but like, he was stranded on an island, yet he was genius, and he was sweet and purest of hearts, and well, I don't know about genius, but he was a pretty smart guy. So yeah, it just all goes to show money isn't everything. I think it's cool that even though Jim is obviously like a 12-year-old minor, in this story it would be totally acceptable for him to like have some drinks. Like, at that time of history, I don't even remember what year this was taking place in, but like, he's a pirate boy and they're on the sea, and it's in a time where it's not that big of a deal. Like, he could definitely have some drinks, but he's only seen it in a negative light. He's only seen it kill people, he's only seen it turn people stupid and make them angry, make them irrational, and make them drown themselves and make them fight. And he's like, whoa, I don't want that stuff. Like, pass, hard pass. And that, like, even at the end of the story, they all drink in celebration except for Jim. And I love that. I love that he sees the negative effects that's portrayed in front of him. And I mean, he's not ever demonstrated moderation, really. Even the doctor and the squire, they take it too far, you know. They get like red, and he didn't want that for himself ever. And that shows his boyish innocence, that he doesn't maybe know that there could be a middle ground. He's like, I don't want to be any part of that, which is very, very good of him. Let's talk about relationships and characters that stuck out. So Jim Hawkins and Long John Silver. Though painted as enemies from early on, they ultimately counted on each other as alliances. As Jim grew and matured, we watched his mindset of Silver change from admiration to near disgust, yet he still always hoped him the best. I think that they related to each other. Silver saw himself in young Jim, and Jim learned his pride from Silver, but ultimately their lives went down opposite paths. And then I said, Ben Gunn was such a crucial character to the story. Though he was a victim of abandonment, he never acted as anything but a good man trying to survive and succeeding. He was always willing to help those who were good, and he did not demonstrate 1 ounce of greed. His friendly nature formed relationships with Jim and his crew that led the story to end the way that it did. He's the true hero of Treasure Island. I heart Ben Gunn, bro. Anyways, yeah, let's elaborate on those a little bit. Jim Hawkins and Long John Silver, I've already talked about. They kind of like, they're kind of parallels, like literally just good versus evil at its finest, because even though Jim isn't like all pure good, he's close, and Long John Silver isn't all pure evil, he has some like really complex character arcs, but it shows that they both have like very similar personalities, and they both made very different choices and how that played out for them. Yeah, I just think it's cool. Like it's just one of those situations where books put two characters that mirror each other, but they winded up down different paths, and it kind of helped Jim connect to him. And as he grew up, he literally like admired this man, and he was like, wow, he's so cool, and he got a lot of his characteristics from him, probably like wanting to be him, kind of, especially as like a 12-year-old boy. He probably wanted to be just like this guy, and after a while he was like, wait, this isn't the man I want to be like at all. Like this guy is not good, and he realizes that from himself, and that's just a cool story, a cool picture to like unfold, I guess. Y'all know how I feel about Ben Gunn. Like I already told you all about it. It's just he's the hero. Like do we all agree? We all agree that he's the hero. That's all I need. Overall, it's a book that you have to be intentional about reading with every sentence because of the unnatural vocabulary, the childlike innocent perspective, and the rapid turn of events. In short sessions, it was very hard and confusing to read, which is why it took me so long. When I sat down for the day and intended on finishing, it finally had me eager for the next chapter, and time flew by. The themes were predictable, but the specific events weren't, except maybe once or twice. I did enjoy it, and I'm happy that I read it, but I wasn't sure how I felt about it for a very good portion of the book. Do I recommend? Yes, but not for everyone. And would I read again? I could see it. Basically, I started reading this book 202 days ago. 221 days ago, and that's a long time. Like that's almost a year. It just took me so long because I would pick it up and put it down, pick it up and put it down, and it would leave me so confused because like you really got to read it kind of all at once. The vocabulary is something you have to mentally adjust to, and the way that it's written, and the way that Robert Louis Stevenson, yeah, the way that he writes, and the way that he tells the story is very sentence by sentence, and in 2 sentences something completely different is happening, and it's a big change, and it's said so particularly and so intelligently that sometimes you miss it almost. So you really have to be intentional about reading every single sentence, but it was good. Like when I sat down, I was like, I am going to finish Treasure Island, and I kind of backtracked and read from here to here. I was sucked in. Like each page I was like, one more page, let me just start reading the page of the next chapter. Oh, let me just finish the chapter, and I finished the book. So it was one of those, like for a while I didn't even know if I liked it, just because I wasn't like reading it consistently, but once I sat down and read it all, I really liked it. So do with that information what you will. And then do I recommend? Low-key, not for most people. Like if you like books off of Book Talk, and if you like I mean, if you like coming of age, this is coming of age, but if you like classics, I recommend it for sure. If you like the movie Treasure Island, I haven't seen it, but I'm sure it parallels a little bit, so maybe I recommend it for those people. If you like fairy tales, yeah, but it's not for everyone, for sure. Like I just could tell it's not for everyone, so yeah. And would I read it again? Maybe not. I'm not opposed to it because I liked it, but it's hard to answer that question when you just finished a book like Slow Your Roll. I just put it down. With that being said, those were my thoughts on Treasure Island. That was a really long summary and really long video, but I've been meaning to get back into book reviews again, so I'm so excited that I finally am. If you like these types of videos, leave comments below. If you have book recommendations, leave comments below. Please, I love getting book recommendations, and if I read it, I will do a book review on it, so you could look forward to that for sure. Other than that, I love you guys and I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope I inspired someone to pick up a book and read because it's cool. Like, it's so fun. Anyway, yeah, I love you guys. Bye!